Well, good morning, and I've raced up the stairs without puffing this morning and got into the radio studio 4 minutes late again. But that's because we had some very important things to talk about on Mirador Television, which we did and which we'll now talk about here on Rouser Radio, coming to you from Lewes in East Sussex, UK. Because we're WWW, we need to let you know which country, not only which town. Okay, good morning again. It is Thursday, throbbing Thursday. Lots going on this morning. The people down at Lewis Eye, excellent investigative journalists. Don't know who they are, never met them. So this comes totally unsolicited praise and support. Have come up with a plan that has been bobbling around for some time, but to drive a new road from around Polegate to serve Eastbourne and to drive it through the ancient Weald, knocking down beauty spots, trees, homes, you name it. But as usual, the perpetrators, East Sussex County Council, along with some of those people in central government who know naught about what's going on, let alone what's going on here in our backyard, those lovely people in Westminster are in cahoots, and the whole thing is really getting buttoned up. Oh, there will be a public consultation, all right. Yes, they'll listen to what we have to say, and then bin it the way that they did down in Newhaven for whether they should have a new factory on the banks of the inlet, on the banks of the port. You know, it's. I'm afraid our governance is out of control. It is out of control. It is people dashing off in all sorts of directions without any sort of plan. They don't talk to each other, let alone us. Well, that has got to stop. And do you know something? Well, of course you don't. Or you know many things that I don't. But one of the things that I think I was appalled when I heard that there were splinter groups from the Labour Party and the Conservative Party who were going to form a new party. It's been tried in the past. Shirley Williams, very capable lady, and David Owen, a bit of a butterfly, but nonetheless quite a good mind. They tried it, and I think it was Roy Jenkins who joined them, if I'm not mistaken. So heavyweights, they tried to form a new party in the 1980s, I think it was, late 1970s, the early 1980s, and it failed. Nigel Farage has tried to form a new party. He is a pretty formidable character. I don't care. He and Boris are a bit like us, like Marmite. We're the Marmite gang. Love us or hate us, but never forget us. And they, or at least Nigel, also failed to start a new party. And I really don't think that this group will have much luck either. They'll just sit as a splinter. But then I began to think, do you know something? The fact of the matter is that we are, and the reason that we've got a Donald Trump and a Justin Trudeau and a challenge to Angela Merkel and a right-wing government in Austria and people under threat in a good many other governments across the EU, and our own untenable situation when nobody knows who they're voting for, what they're voting for, whether they're doing it for their own purposes or anybody else's. I mean, what a mess in Westminster it is. And it is all these people that we've now got in various parts of the world are sending a message from us, the electorate, is we've had enough of you, the established parties. You can't get your act together. You're not delivering what we need and what we want. Get with it, or we're going to oust you. And in the States they have, and in Canada they have. If you want established parties, make them work. Make the Conservatives work. Conservative organisation, that is. Make Labour work. Bring back, I never thought I would hear the day that I say this, bring back the Liberals. But whatever, let's get a realisation amongst our politicians and among the political classes they cannot go on living a life of privilege and being totally unaware of what's going on. Now, this road, County Council, this is the same County Council, incidentally, and the road looks as if it's going to cost about $500 million. £500 million, sorry. Dollars, if only. The road is going to cost approximately $500 million, as I read the detail on it as outlined by Lewis I. This is the council that has said no to extending bus passes, no to letting you into a free library, no into helping underprivileged kids get to school. No, no, no. Well, it is time, County Council, and it is time, politicians, to stand up and say, no, we don't want a road driven through our beauty spots. We don't want a road that will bring unwanted urban sprawl. We are a rural county. We are a beautiful county. And that people would want to destroy it when they haven't even got a social conscience is just, to me, not only unacceptable, but I simply don't understand it. And it's all very well to blame the politicians, but I'm sorry, but nowadays politicians are a strange bunch. The Sir Humphreys are in charge. It's the executives, the permanent staff, who actually run things, and they're not up before the electorate. So somebody has got to say no to them. It would appear, my whistleblower, if you want to call it that, inside Lewis District Council, tells me that my good friends down at Town and County magazine, which is beginning to establish itself and make its mark in the community, put a right cat amongst the pigeons with their criticism, and it was an amusing criticism. There was nothing mean or spiteful about it. It was amusing criticism of the fact that you simply can't get through to the council on their phone system as it's constituted at the moment. Oh, apparently there are people raging down the corridors. Well, if we're getting to them, if we're starting to prick them with something just like the phone system, then let's prick them with some of the more disastrous policies that they have undertaken, and that is making our way of life far from the sort of socially just and caring society for the lame, the sick, and the elderly, and the pleasurable society for those who are in reasonable circumstances. Let's ask them, do you plan to do that? Or do you plan to carry on with this nonsense of spending money on roads and highways? Why, some of you will say, listen to Keith, isn't he just a Luddite? Isn't he silly? But let's start to look at the runes, if you like. Start to look and read about what's happening to transport. There have been tests on using road-type vehicles along railway lines. Great way to carry freight, rather than just the freight trains that we have at the moment. Individual type lorries could travel along the railway lines. People are experimenting with flying cars. Okay. I can't see the day when everybody has got a car that flies, because probably mid-air accidents would be awful. But the fact is that there are alternative ways now being investigated, rather than just laying more miles and miles and miles of concrete and tarmac to get us from point A to point B, when actually who cares whether we go from point A to point B. Let's get a social cohesion going. Let's get the high street back in harness. There's no reason why it can't live in harmony with the big supermarkets. There's no reason why it can't live in harmony with the web. The whole history of communications goes back to the turn of the century, from 1800 to 1900s, with disaster looming for newspapers because of radio. In the middle of the 1900s, disaster looming for radio because of television. Towards the end of the 1990s, disaster for television because the blockbuster movie had come back. Well, they're all living in perfect harmony now. Okay, some of the services are reduced, but then some services that were introduced were only introduced because people wanted a sprawling empire. Things can happen if people will get together, will talk, will stop being secretive, because they think that their ideas will be stunted at birth. No, there are ways to actually develop in a strategized, hate that word, but with a strategy that looks after every aspect of our society, and not one that has to go behind closed doors and then say, sorry old folk, but your bus pass is going. Oh, Kings, you've woken up, haven't you? You've woken up this morning full of it. Let's see if we've got anything that's half decent to play that we should... I tell you what. There is something called 8-year anniversary from, I think it's one from Bensound, and I'm not 100% sure, but the Bensound folk are so good to us that it bears mentioning that there is a group on the internet called Bensound. They are very, very creative composers of music, and because they feel that their music will get a good listening time, they make it free to people who aren't making a profit, not profiting out of it, and we're most certainly not profiting out of anything at the moment. So let's play this. It's called the 8-year anniversary. Whether it's from Bensound or not, thank you, Bensound, for all the support that you do give to little organisations like us. Okay, let us go with 8-year anniversary.